Hi guys. Sorry, for some reason it's taking a minute for my phone to connect and I have to put it in the little dock. It says waiting for host to start this webinar, but we're on. Hold on, let me try one more time. Join with video. There we go. Whoops, sorry. Thought I turned down the volume. That was awkward. All right, hold on one second, you guys. Okay, we should be good now. Okay. Hi, everyone. Okay. Today is a super fun workshop. I'm super excited. I think you guys are too. We had the most signups ever of any class. Wait, sorry, why is it still so loud? Okay, sorry. I think we're good now. So today we had the most signups of any workshop ever. So I'm so curious to see who all ends up joining us today. Come on, phone. Why are you being so loud to me today? I don't need to hear my own voice. Did that cut out? Oh, sorry, you guys. You'd think this whole thing would be seamless by now. And for some reason, it just is not always seamless. There's a preview. Ooh. Okay. Maybe that'll work now. Okay, thank you guys. So hopefully that gave a bunch more of you a minute to log on. Welcome you guys. If we haven't met before, I'm Marissa. I'm the founder of the Neon Tea Party, coming to you live from my kitchen. This is my basil. Also, does anyone else know about this trick with scallions that if you put the bottoms in water, they'll regrow? This is a Dave Chang hack. So yeah, I like having a little bit of greenery to brighten things up. My kitchen is like the least neon tea party room in the house, and of course that's what you guys see. Okay, we've got a bunch of you guys on. Be sure to say hi. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Hi, Anne. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Lindsay and Penny. Hi, Joan. Hi, Nicole. Oh, I know, Nicole, you've been waiting for this workshop, so I'm so happy that today is the day. Hi, Irma. Hi, Bev. Hi, Allie. Hey, Candace. Hey, Mo. Oh my gosh. Hi, Yael. Thanks for tuning in from Israel. I miss Israel so much. About exactly a year ago almost, my husband Sam and I were in Israel for like 2 weeks, and it was our first time going there together. And last weekend we were getting so nostalgic going through all of our pictures, and oh, can't wait to be able to come back. Okay, hi Stacy, glad you made it on. Hi Sherry, hi Jennifer, hi Kristen, hey Steph. Oh, thank you. I know I've been meaning to share on Instagram stories where my nail polish is from, because I treated myself a few weeks ago to some new colors. Okay, we've got a bunch of you guys on. Hi Katie, hi Donna, hi Pam, hi Jessica, hi Heidi, hi Jen, hi Christina, hi Flor, hi Tracy, hi Jess, hi Heidi, and okay, said hi to everyone. Hi Lisa. Okay, so we have 51 people on, maybe a few more will join. We had over 200 signups today, which is the most ever. I said that before. Today is going to be a very jam-packed lesson. Also, I don't know what's going on with my eyebrows. Quarantine eyebrows are a weird thing. So today is going to be jam-packed. We are going to be going over basically every pom-pom pattern that I know and teach. So I'm going to go over, before we start, I'll give you guys an overview of like the flow of the class, because we're really going to be focusing on the like color placement on our loom tool, or if you're using cardboard. That's what I wanted to have. Oh, a tape measure. I have one here. So that's going to be the focus of the class. So if you have a notebook and pen, that might be something great to grab right now just to take some notes. I'm going to be sending you guys some links to resources on the neonteaparty.com that will like give you the overview of what I'm teaching you guys in real time, so you'll know where to reference back to that. But we're going to just mostly be focusing on how to get our patterns, and I'll give you guys kind of like a quick overview on actually like tying and trimming our pom-poms. But I think what we're going to end up doing is just making all of our pom-pom pancakes. And then if there's time at the end and you guys want to start trimming, you can. But we're basically just going to make a ton of pom-pom pancakes, and then I'm going to let you guys be able to trim them after, just to maximize our time today. So a couple housekeeping things. So if you have questions at any point, because this is webinar style, just pop them into the chat. I'll see them come through, but I'll stop. I may not answer your question right away if I'm in the middle of part of a lesson, but I will be checking during those little pause points and answering your questions. And if there's something that you're really not getting, you know, you can also ask me to just like repeat or re-explain something. As far as a Clover tool, so you definitely can, for most of these patterns, apply them to the Clover tool. If you're unfamiliar with the Clover tool, I'm not going to run and grab it right now, but it's like this round tool where it has like little arms that come up this way, and that's where you wrap your yarn around. But really the way that the patterns are going to be formatted are just on a tool like this. So this is a loom tool. So you can kind of like translate the instructions to, you know, think about doing it half and half, but the lesson is going to be with a tool like this. What else did I want to say about housekeeping stuff? This weekend is our last weekend of workshops before I take a 2-week hiatus. We are planning our summer schedule, and we'll be back, I think it's the weekend of the 20th. So next weekend and the following weekend, we don't have any classes. I'm taking a little vacation. And then the following weekend, I'm giving myself like another week to make sure our schedule's up and that you guys have enough time to like sign up and order supplies and all that. Tomorrow we have Tie-Dye 101, our second session. So be sure to sign up for that. The schedule is on the neonteaparty.com. And before we get started, I couldn't start today's class without just acknowledging the pain that our country is going through right now. I mean, on top of quarantine, and like my eyes are going to start welling up, on top of quarantine, which is already so, you know, challenging as it is, and everything that has come along with that as far as safety and, you know, people we know being sick and all that stuff. You know, what's been going on this week is just, I mean, heartbreaking to say the least. And I just wanted to just acknowledge that before we jump into something that's as joyful as making colorful pom-poms, and, you know, just kind of inviting us all to educate ourselves on what's going on and the history behind it all, and just promoting peace and love to every person. So that's all. Don't want to make it political at all. Just, you know, peace and love, and just thinking of everybody, and we just got to stay strong and help one another out. So now that that's off, because yeah, like I said, couldn't really start pom-poms without just saying something. So, okay, love you guys. Whew, let's do something happy. Let's see, you guys have a few comments here. Oh, yes, of course. I mean, whatever. I said what I had to say. Okay, tie-dye 101 is tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. Let me just pop that link in. Hold on. Here is the tie-dye link. 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. We're going to be using Tulip One Step dye. If you have other dyes at home, just keep in mind that we're going to be skipping any of the prep associated with dyes other than Tulip One Step. Tulip One Step that's the one that comes in our tie-dye kit and available on our site. And there's no fabric prep other than if you want to like pre-wash your clothes and fabric. But other than that, we're just going to get it wet and then dye it right away. Will I do triangle tomorrow? I maybe if there's time. I'm glad you said that. I'll try and sneak it in there. Do I sell loom? Yes, we have all of the supplies that you're going to see today are available on the neonteaparty.com in our shop. And we have the pattern version, and then we have the extra large version and the pattern version of that. Okay. All right, Candace, we'll do triangle. Got to hook you guys up with all of the knowledge. Whew, okay, what a day, you guys. What a time. But pom-poms, that's what we're here for. We're here for the joy. We're here for the craft. All right, so quick overview before we switch over the camera and start crafting together. Things that you will need. You will need yarn in as many colors as you have on hand. We're obviously doing patterns today, meaning that you're going to need, I would say, at least 4 colors is probably a good starting point. If you have more colors, the more the merrier. You're going to need a loom tool like this, or I know some of you guys wanted to use cardboard instead, which I recommended. So I'm just going to quickly give you the measurement of the tool, and then all you need to do is create like a U shape out of cardboard like this, as well as a cardboard circle like this. This is 2 inches. So 2 inch, I'm going to just type notes to you guys in the chat. If cardboard, 2 inch trim guide, and then the width of the tool, I believe it's 2.25. Okay, and then tool 2.25 inches wide. And that's just the width that we're using. And as far as the space here, you just want, this doesn't really matter as long as you have enough of a gap to be able to thread some embroidery floss through. Okay, so those are the tools. So here's the 2 inch trim guide is what we're using if you have the trim guide set. You're going to need embroidery floss or another type of strong string. If you're using Omega Krill yarn today, you do not want to use Omega Krill to tie your pom-poms. It will rip. You want to use either embroidery floss, a different type of strong string you have on hand. If you're using like a worsted weight acrylic yarn, you can mostly use that to tie your pom-pom in the middle. As far as how tall the cardboard needs to be, I mean, like, I don't really, there's no real like recommendation. This is, you might want it to be larger than this, honestly, but this is like 2.5 inches tall, but you can make it even taller. Okay, yarn, tool, trim guide, embroidery floss, sharp scissor. Note about scissors and pom-poms. If you use dull scissors, you will have a less fun time trimming your pom-poms. So grab the sharpest pair of scissors that you have. And you're going to need, we're going to need a tray or bowl to catch your trimmings. So were I out of, I'm sorry, Stacey, I don't know when you ordered, but we do have black yarn in stock now. So, okay. that is what you need. And then just to, again, sort of give you guys a quick overview of how today's class is going to work, we are going to be focusing on actually placing our colors on our tool to create patterns. I'm going to tell you which patterns we're going over, but what we're going to do is we're going to go one pattern at a time. We're going to wrap it on our tool, tie it up. I'm going to give you guys, like after our first pattern lesson, I'm going to give you guys a lesson about how to tie your pom-pom pancake. And then after that, you know, I can show you again maybe the second time, and then I'm going to trust that you guys mostly got it. I'm going to send you also resources so you could look back at that if I've moved ahead and you need a refresher, just to try and manage time. So we're going to just make pom-pom pancakes for each of the pattern. And then, as I said before, we will trim them at the end. And before class is over, I'll give you guys a lesson on trimming pom-poms so that you'll know how to do that, and send you the resource to be able to do that as well once class is over. Was there anything else I wanted to show you up front? Which patterns are we going to do? So we are going to do color block, but I'm going to give you guys also a quick just lesson on how to do a striped pom, but we're going to move on to actually doing the color block. We're going to do sprinkled. We're going to do speckled. We're going to do leopard and floral. So leopard and floral are pretty similar. You guys can kind of see that they're like splotches that have a little like dot of color on the inside of the splotches. So they're done pretty similar. We're going to see what time it is when we get to that point, and I may just kind of do both lessons at the same time, but I'm going to try and do 2 separate lessons, but based on time. So that's what we're going to be going over. Let me send you guys some resources real quick so you have these links, and then I'm going to flip the camera over and we're going to start our lesson. Okay, so first, so this is all in our online craft studio section of the website, which I've just updated our nav bar on our site to say craft tutorials instead of online craft studio. So just neonteaparty.com, you'll see top left, it says craft tutorials. That's where you can always find all of our tutorials. And then here is the first link that you guys are going to want to be able to reference. This is our basic pom-pom step-by-step tutorial. It has step-by-step photos for the pom-pom making process. And then the thing that you're really going to want to reference is bottom left. You'll see this pom-pom revolution chart. Make sure you can hang on to that. Then let's just send you guys. I'm going to send you guys the pom-pom landing page, which has links to all of the pom-pom patterns that we're going to go over today. So if you go down to lesson 4 through 6, those are the step-by-step instructions. Lesson 4, how to make pattern pom-poms, that has the sprinkle, color block, speckle, and stripe. And then floral and leopard have their own. So you guys can have those links open to reference during the lesson, as well as we move along in case you need some questions answered or information repeated. So, all right, guys, let's get started. I'm going to just take a minute to switch over my camera. So hang tight 1 second. All right, can you guys see my hands and hear my voice? Just someone pop yes or no. Yes, ma'am. Okay, amazing. And you guys can pin this video just by clicking the 3 dots and click pin video, and then it will be your main view. Hooray! So let me pull out some colors. I have my whole bin of Omega Krill next to me. So we're going to be starting with color blocked pom-poms. Pick some colors that you could see the difference quite easily. And maybe some purple. Gorgeous. You can see all my little stash of pom-poms over here, which I'll pull out as we go. So here are our color block pom-poms. Actually, before I even get into this, I just want to give you guys an overview of like what you would do if you were making a single color pom-pom. For anyone who's new to pom-pom making today, just so you know kind of like the base knowledge that we're starting with to then go into our patterns. So these are solid color pom-poms. When you make a pom-pom on a loom tool or any tool that's, you know, has 2 arms that you're wrapping the yarn around, one color, you're just going to wrap your color all around your tool like this, and then tie it in the middle and trim it. And so what we're going to do today is, instead of just focusing on adding one color to our tool, I'm going to show you how to place different colors along your tool to get those different patterns. Okay, so Hannah says no need to pin, it's a webinar. Hi Hannah, I know, whatever. So that's the overview for just like what we're going to be doing. So also, I guess before we dive in, let's just review how to handle our yarn. If you are using Omega Krill, that is the yarn that I'm using here today. You can see the package. This is the yarn that we sell at the Neon Tea Party. It's from Mexico. It's magic yarn. You can use it for so many crafts, pom-poms and tassels, friendship bracelets, embroidery, what else am I missing? Crochet, knitting, and it's this really fine, let me try and get a focus here. Also, I feel like my thing is dipping down a little. It's a really fine yarn, and it comes 3-ply. So this is the first thing to note if you're using this, because I'm going to be referencing specifically about Omega Krill, but you can use any yarn. So you see here with the Omega Krill, it splits into 3 skinny strands like that, but we are going to treat the 3 skinny strands as one. So when I say 1 strand, I mean 3 skinny strands together. And if at any point you get confused about the number of strands, just pop your question in the chat and I will clarify. But 3 skinny strands equals 1 strand. So if I say 1 strand, it's 3 skinny strands together. And if I say 2 strands, then, so I'll give you an extended tour of Omega Krill. This strand is pulling from the center of the yarn. So if you have a fresh skein of Omega Krill, you could just sort of pick at the middle. I call it belly button. Just pick at the belly button until it comes loose. If you're having trouble finding the end by doing that, sometimes it's super buried in there and you can sort of pull out the guts, cut off the guts, and then you'll have access to a tail and you can use those guts later. But the other tail is wrapped around the outside of the skein. Really, really easy to find. You'll just see it wrapped around the outside. So if I say 2 strands, that means you're going to take the group of 3 from the outside, the group of 3 from the inside, and you're going to use them both at the same time. And this just thickens up your yarn to cut down on the number of times that you're going to be wrapping around your tool. Okay, so hopefully that sort of explains Omega Krill if anyone's new to it. Just a quick lesson on how to keep it from tangling after. I like to take both of those tails and wrap them around the outside like that to keep the tails distinguishable from the rest. And then when you want to access them again, just take that entire group of wrappings. You see that entire group, remove it from your yarn, put a finger into that little loop there and unravel it with your finger staying in the middle. And then you'll be avoiding tangles. So Yael wants to know, what if your yarn skein has been rolled into a new ball? Just use the strand on the outside. So anytime that I'm referencing 2 strands of Omega Krill, and I'll be sure to use Omega Krill to, like the word Omega Krill to distinguish. If you're using any other type of yarn, just use your 1 strand and you should be fine. Okay, so that is the tour of Omega Krill. Let's get started with patterns. You guys are like, let's just do this already. So the first one that we're going to start with is color block, but I'm going to just give you guys a little tip about getting striped pom-poms, because we're going to inherently be making a striped pattern on our way to getting this color block effect. And so color block just refers to the fact that there are these chunks of color throughout our pom-pom, right? There's like these chunky blocks of color. So this is the first one we're going to start with. And I recommend at least 4 colors. If you only have 3, that should work as well. But the more the merrier. I'm going to probably use, I have 6 colors in front of me, so I'm probably going to be using all 6 of those colors. I'm also going to, my camera is a little bit far over, so I'm just going to fix this. There we go. I don't know why my arm is like insisting on being really droopy today. Okay, this will just have to do. Okay, perfect. So we have our tool. So I'm going to start with 3 colors. So if you guys want to get out 3 colors, get the ends of your yarn out. We're going to be working, or I'm going to be working on the wide side of my tool here. And I'm also using we're using this 2-inch trim guide. So if you want to refer back to the how to make pom-poms overview page, you're going to see that we're going to be wanting to wrap 180 revolutions in total. Ugh, I kind of want to ditch the revolution talk today. Are you guys okay with if we don't, anyone who knows what I mean about revolution? I'm just going to skip the revolution talk and and just give you guys the general overview and just assume that you guys can figure out the math about the total revolutions. Just in case anyone has no idea what I'm talking about, that chart shows you the recommended number of times to wrap your pom-pom around your tool based on the trim guide size you're using to get a dense pom-pom with, like, it takes the guesswork out of how many times to wrap your yarn around, but I think that's just going to take too much time for us today. So I'm just going to give you guys the pattern information. But if you have any specific questions about the math with the revolutions, definitely feel free to pop them in and I'll be happy to answer if anybody needs those questions answered. Okay, so the gist with stripes is, am I using the smaller loom tool? This is the standard size loom tool, and I'm using the wide side for our 2-inch trim guide. Cool, but you could use any size you want. Okay, so stripes. So like I said before, if you're making a solid color pom-pom, you would just be wrapping your tool with 1 color the whole way. So we're going to block out our colors to start with a row of stripes of different color at the base of our little pom-pom situation. So we're going to take our first color, and you'll see here we have these little notches. These are in general to hold your yarn in place as you wrap. For the sake of this class, we're actually going to ditch these notches, and I'm just going to show you guys how to place your yarn right on the loom tool without the notches. The reason being is we're going to be placing color all across the surface of our loom tool, and if we were to put every color in a notch before starting, you know, let's say we wrapped a bunch of yarn over here and we had this little strand over here, but then we ended with, let's say, pink over here, we'd end up with a yellow little group of yellow threads coming out in the pink, and we want to keep our colors as separate and distinct as possible. So we're ditching the notches today. So how to hold down your yarn when you're wrapping. It's really, really easy. So you're just going to choose where you're placing your yarn on your tool. I'm going to start at the bottom and work towards the top, or I guess we'll call this the bottom, work towards the top with different colors. But you're going to just place it where you want. You're going to use your finger to just hold it down and then take your yarn, take your yarn and wrap right over one time, two times. And by the time you've wrapped a second time, your yarn will pretty much be stuck in place, which is good and what we want. So for our color block pom-pom, and I'm actually going to move this over because we want to leave a little bit of space here. This is where we're going to thread our embroidery floss later. For our color block pom-pom, we're going to start with at least 3 stripes of color across our tool. And when you're going to wrap as much as you'd like, this is where all that talk about revolution counts comes into play, dividing up the total number of revolutions by the number of color blocks you're planning for. Like I said, we're going to ignore that, but if anyone knows what I'm talking about, you totally can divide the number of revolutions by the color blocks. If you don't know what I'm talking about, do not worry about it right now. So I have 6 skinny strands together right now. So I'm using 2 at a time. Okay, but you can use just 1, either way. So you're going to wrap your yarn around to create your first little stripe or color block. And when you're done, when you feel like you have a significant amount of your color on your tool, then we're going to cut and tuck our yarn. So one little trick I like to do is I like to place my finger down on the yarn on my second to last go around, wrap over my finger, and then where'd my scissor go? Trim the yarn. And then when you've wrapped over your finger, you create this little loop for yourself. So you can just pull that yarn through. That's just a little advanced tip, but what you can also do is simply cut your yarn and then just tuck it under some of the wraps to hold it in place. Keep in mind that this does not need to be the world's neatest process at all. Just as long as you have your little color block on your tool, you'll be good to go. So this is going to be our first stripe, and I'm going to go ahead and add 2 other colors of stripes to my tool. And you can either make those stripes the same exact sort of density and width, or if you're counting your revolutions, you can count the same number of times you're wrapping around. But you don't have to. It's all about, do you want your color blocks to be more or less even as far as, the amount of color? Like this one looks like it was pretty even, but, these patterns are simply just sort of like idea starters. So you can get as funky, creative, uneven, mix match as you want. So that's to say you don't have to have the same exact width of your stripes. Up to you. Okay, so I have 2 colors on there, and you can see that we have color, these are stripes forming. And I'm just organizing my yarn in case anyone's curious about the colors. This is Canary, Lime, and I'm about to add Bougainville, and I'm going to wrap all the way up here for our 3rd stripe on our base. Okay, getting a little tangled, but you can see how here I'm just cutting and just picking up some of the yarn wraps and tucking. Okay, so if you were to just stop here and tie your pom-pom in the middle and trim it, you will get stripes. So apologize for the appearance of this pom-pom. It's really shaggy, but it's striped. So if you want stripes, you could just stop right here and you'll get a striped pom-pom. But we're going to do color block, which is basically just layering rows of stripes on top of one another. So we're starting with our base of 3 here, And now we're going to add color blocks on top of our stripes here. So I'm going to take a new color. So I have my purple here. And you can either do the stripes right on top of each other, but I actually like to wedge my colors in between. So you'll see I'm doing a fresh layer on top, and I'm taking my purple and I'm putting it right in between the yellow and the green. Or I should say canary and lime, if we want to be real specific here. Oops. And again, you can either do the same number of revolutions or, you know, do fewer, do more, totally up to you. Okay, and I'm going to add another color here, and you can add as many color blocks as you want. It really, there is no hard rule here. I'm going to stop at 5, but if you want to keep going and add more colors, you absolutely can. So I'm going to add my 5th color right here, wedging in between the green or the lime and the Bougainvillea right next to the purple. This color is Mandarin. This is one of my favorites. It's almost like a Fiesta Palm colors. Okay, so I've got my 5th color block. Going to cut and tuck like so. My loom tool is nice and full of yarn. The trimming open process is going to be very satisfying later, but I'm going to show you guys right now how to tie your pom-pom. So if you're still adding your yarn to your pom-pom, to your tulle, and this is the first time that you've made a pom-pom with the Neon Tea Party or at all, let's get all your yarn on your loom tool so you can follow along with me right now. So I'm just going to grab some embroidery floss. It doesn't matter what color it is, it's going to be hidden inside your pom-pom. I have a neutral one on hand, but you can use any color. And the other thing you'll want to do to prep for tying your pom-pom is just make sure you have a little bit of space accessible here in this little U-shaped part here, because we're going to be tying our yarn bundle like so. So we're going to need to go through there. If your pom-pom is super fat, which it might be, you can use, if you have a yarn needle, you can use that to sort of guide your embroidery floss through that space. Okay, so I'm going to move on and show you guys how to tie it. If you have any questions as I'm tying it, or any questions you'd like me to reference after this part of the lesson, definitely pop them in the chat. So I have my embroidery floss. I usually keep the embroidery floss on the bobbin and pull out about a 1/2 arm's length. And I don't tend to cut it off because I like to conserve as much embroidery floss as possible, but you certainly can cut it if that sort of makes things easier for you. And we're going to take our embroidery floss and thread it into that space that I keep talking about. So I have the embroidery floss draped over my yarn bundle here. If I flip it over, you see that that tail is hanging down, and then the side that's still attached to my embroidery floss is over here. Okay, so I'm going to reach under my little yarn bundle here, grab that tail that's hanging on my left side here, bring it around the yarn bundle. You can kind of pull some length up if you want. I'm going to take the end and just place it back in that U-shaped space one more time. Okay, so you can see I've wrapped around twice and I have both ends dangling down. So I'm actually now going to flip my tool upside down so that the ends are pointing up. Voila. Let's get our string nice and centered. And then I'm going to show you guys our preferred way to tie pom-poms. The biggest thing to note is that we're going to be tying a double knot, and the first step of the double knot is going to happen with our yarn on the tool we are going to, before we secure it, we are going to be removing our yarn from our tool, and we're going to pull it off and then tie a double knot. Sorry, I got distracted a second. Can I slow down? Okay, so I'm just going to show that one step again. And after that, I'm just going to keep going because the bulk of our lesson is going to be more about the patterns. But you can always reference the step-by-steps on that link that I sent at the beginning. So I'm going to show you guys one more time what I just did here. So we're going to take our embroidery floss. We're going to wrap it around our yarn bundle by taking the end of our embroidery floss. We're going to thread it through this U-shaped space under our bundle. It's draped over our bundle like so. We're going to wrap it around the yarn, thread it back into that U-shaped space there. And now we should have the 2 strands dangling down. So I'm just going to flip my tool upside down so that the ends are pointing upwards. And now I'm going to jump back into where I was before of tying our pom-pom. So the first step is going to be with our yarn on the tool. Then we're going to remove the yarn, pull it tight, and secure it with the second half of the knot. So I'm going to walk you guys through that step by step right now. So we're going to take our thread. We're going to do a surgeon's knot, which sounds a lot scarier and more intense than it is. It's really just the first step of tying our shoes. So I've crossed the 2 pieces of string here. I'm going to take my cut end and tuck it under the cross. And then I'm just going to tuck it under a second time. And doing this just gives us a little bit more leverage and control over our knot. So I'll do that one more time for you guys. You're going to take your 2 strands of your 2 ends. You're going to cross them. You're going to take the cut end, or if both of your ends are cut, just pick whichever end is sort of like underneath. And you're going to loop it through once and loop it through a second time. And now we're going to pull it to the surface of our yarn, and do not double knot it just yet. You just want to pull that knot to the surface of your yarn, and we are going to remove our yarn bundle from our tool. So the easiest way to do this, if this is your first time, you're going to grip the yarn. Like you see, I have my hands in kind of like a C. You're going to place that over the yarn like so, and then grip the other end of your loom tool. You're kind of like holding it like you're pushing a shopping cart, and then you're going to pull your hands gently away from each other, and you may need to just wiggle that yarn off. Okay, so now that our yarn is off of our tool, we can pull our knot nice and tight. And this is the most important. If there's any important part of making a pom-pom, tying it tightly is the one thing that you want to make sure you have down. So we're going to pull this nice and tight. That's why we take it off the tool, so we can get it as tight as possible. So a couple tricks for you guys. I like to take the ends of the thread embroidery floss, wrap them around my fingers. That helps a lot with control. I'm also holding the embroidery floss close to the pom-pom. I'm not holding it out here. This gives you 0 leverage. Hold nice and close to your pom-pom. Wrap around your fingers, and then we're going to pull up and out to condense your pom-pom as much as possible. Okay, and then we're going to, now that it's nice and tight, secure that knot with a single knot here. So I like to place a finger down. If you have a friend nearby, a family member, you can ask them to stick their finger down for you. I just use my little free fingers here. Choose one, hold down, and then you can just tie a quick little single knot like so. So this is a pom-pom pancake, you guys, and this is where, well, first I'm going to cut off the embroidery floss in a second, but this is what we're going to be making in class today. And then at the end, I'm going to show you guys how to trim your pom-pom. So we're going to just end with these little pom-pom pancakes, and it'll be so fun as we go along. or like at the end to trim open all your patterns and reveal them. So if you already know how to do this part, obviously feel free to go ahead. But if you want to keep up with the pace of the class, we're just going to be ending with our little pom-pom pancakes here. So with the embroidery floss, you can either cut your embroidery floss close to the knot if you know that you want a loose pom-pom like this without a string. But if you want to potentially tie your pom-poms onto something, you can leave your threads hanging and cut them, you know, to be even. And then when you go to trim your pom-pom later, just sort of tuck them and hide them as you're trimming so that you don't accidentally cut them, and then you'll be able to sort of pull them out. But for the sake of today's class, I am going to cut my embroidery floss pretty close to that knot. So if anybody needs those instructions again, I'm going to put the link in bio. Oh my God. I think I'm on Instagram right now. Put the link to our pom-pom lesson here. There is a video that will show you that process in its entirety once more with a few other tips. And there are step-by-step photos there as well, because we're going to just proceed with making our colorful pom-pom patterns and tying them into pom-pom pancakes like this. So it looks like we got a question or two. Hannah says, kind of amazing how easy this seems to be able to get color block pom-poms. Yes, so simple. It's really just about placing colors with intention. Amelia says, how important is it to keep the strings in their color block sections? If I have stragglers in a different color, is that all right? That's a great question. And Amelia, I assume you're Amy, because I know Amy Fazio. So I'm going to call you Amy if that's okay. So yay. Okay, that's what I assumed. I keep meaning to ask you that question. So Amy, how important is it to keep it? I honestly don't worry about it. When you trim your pom-poms open, you'll see if there are any like errant colors in the other sections that are sort of bothering your eye. And then you can always just like pull out those individual strands. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. You can see mine looks kind of messy, but it's hard to tell what it's actually going to look like until it's trimmed open. So I'm going to just take my little scrap, put it to the side in my bin. So that was color block pom-poms, you guys. That is a really fun one. The next one we're going to do is sprinkle, which is this is like usually the first pattern I teach because it's as simple as it comes. Basma says, is it possible to turn my pom-pom into a knob? If so, can you give us a little idea? So by knob, I'm not totally sure what you mean. Maybe a keychain? And there is a tutorial on our website about how to attach pom-poms, which I'm not going to be able to really get into today so much. So definitely take a look at the links that I sent you to the our main pom-pom page. Okay, so sprinkles. You want to choose, again, well, I guess you could choose 2 colors if you want, minimum 2 colors, maximum as many colors as you like. So, and if you are using Omega Krill, this is one pattern where I recommend just taking 1 3-ply strand per color so that you get these evenly dispersed flecks of color. So you're going to take the number of colors that you want to use in your pattern. We're going to be wrapping all of the colors at once. So you're going to take each of those colors that you want to use. Do I want to do some green in here? Maybe I'll add some baby yellow. Yeah, that's pretty. And you're going to just take all of those colors at once, and we're going to be wrapping all of those colors at the same time. So this one's super simple. We're sort of backing up a step to an even more simple pattern than the last. So we're going to take all of those 4 colors or however many colors you're using, and let's just go ahead and wrap them all at the same time like so. If you are using revolution counting, you can just divide the total number of revolutions by the number of Omega Krill strands you're using. and that will tell you how many times to wrap your yarn around your tool. So for the 2-inch, just because this is probably the easiest one to give you guys a little revolution count guidance on. So for a 2-inch pom-pom, that's 180 total revolutions, and I'm using 4 colors. So I believe that is 45 revolutions with Omega Krill. And again, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't even worry about it. Ignore me. Just wrap all your colors at once around your tool until you have a nice fat bundle. Okay, so this is looking good. I'm actually going to, I know I said I wasn't really using the notches, but because this is all sort of evenly dispersed colors, I'm just going to place my yarn in one of the little notches to hold it in place, cut it off, and then I'm going to tie this little yarn bundle. I'll kind of narrate what I'm doing, a little more of a sped up version of the last lesson that I gave you guys. I'm sure many of you are still wrapping, but I'll just kind of narrate as I go in case anyone wants another quick overview. So I'm taking my embroidery floss, threading it through that little space on the side. You want to make sure to leave yourself a little space there. Wrap around your yarn bundle and thread back through that U-shaped space. Mine's not wanting to go in. Go. And you'll have your yarn, your embroidery floss dangling down. Flip your tool up so that the 2 strands are pointing upwards. And we're going to do that surgeon's knot. Make sure you have plenty of length on both sides. So you'll cross your strands like so, tuck under once, tuck under twice, pull to the surface of your yarn, remove your yarn from your tool, and pull as tight as you can before securing with a single knot. And that will give you a pom-pom that looks more or less like this. Got most of the same colors in there. And I like to call this one sprinkle because if you imagine like a bowl of sprinkles and how all the flecks are evenly dispersed throughout, that's what this one looks like. The next one we're going to do is speckle, which is a little bit different. So I'm going to give you guys a moment to finish your sprinkled pom-pom, and I'll pop in some more resources in the chat here so you guys have those on hand. So here is the link to, this one has sprinkle pattern, which we're doing right now, the color block pattern, and the stripe pattern. And then it also has our next pattern, which is the speckle. So this is that link for you guys to be able to reference if I'm going a little fast for you, or if you want something to look back at as a refresher. That has all that info for you. And Basma, let me give you a link to how to attach your pom-poms. So this is a great resource for you guys. And again, this is all linked from the same landing page on our website, but this one I just put how to attach pom-poms and tassels. We'll show you how to make garlands, how to sew on your pom-poms, how to make how to make a bag charm? Well, I guess that's stringing on. But that will give you some tips on how to attach your pom-poms. And then Margaret says, do the guts normally pull out of the top or bottom of a fresh skein? I don't think there's any rule to that because I don't even, like, I don't know that there's a very clear way of what's the top and what's the bottom because whatever, however they put the paper on is how they put the paper on. So yes, this is all on our site. So if you missed my little PSA at the beginning, if you go to theneonteaparty.com, at the top you'll see craft tutorials, and then there's a whole section on pom-poms and tassels. I'll just put that link in again, and that has links to all the everything that you're learning today. And the how to make the pattern pom-poms has 4 patterns in there. Was there another question or something I want to show? Oh, I saw a Q&A come up. Cindy wanted to know. So in case you guys have questions, definitely keep popping them in the chat because I tend to miss the little Q&A. But Cindy wanted to know, if we're using Omega Krill, does it matter if we're using the strand from the center or the outside? No, but I find it easier to pull from the middle one if you're using just one, because it just kind of comes out straight rather than your skein kind of flipping around. But it doesn't matter as far as like how will your pom-pom come out, it'll be the same. Okay, so hopefully that gave you guys a minute to catch up with the sprinkle. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page for the, let's keep these cuties up here, that we're all on the same page for this next pattern, which is speckled. My computer's slowing a little bit. Okay, so this is the speckled one, which is going to come out a bit different than our sprinkle. You see, again, the evenly dispersed flecks of color. That's the one that we just did here. And with the speckle, there's more of a base color. I just out of habit tend to use white because I find it looks like funfetti. But you can choose any color as your base color. And then we're going to just wrap in these little periodic flecks of color. So this is one of my favorites. It reminds me of like those little Milk Bar, what are they called? Like the little Milk Bar cake bites. So for this one, you're going to start by choosing your base color. So I have my baby yellow out. I think I'll use this one. Got a big tangle of this, so let's put that to good use. And then you're going to want to choose, I would say, like three colors for your speckles, if not more. So you'll want about 4 colors for this. And the overview of how this pattern is formed is we're basically going to switch off layers, like flat layers of your base color, and then you'll pause once you have a flat layer, and then wrap in speckles. So if you're using, so I have here for my base, I'm going to be using 2 3-ply strands of Omega Krill. So that's 6 skinny strands. This is for the base. And then for the, I'm just going to put it here to hold it a second. And then for the speckles, you're going to want 1 3-ply strand for each of your speckle colors. So I've got pink, do some mandarin, using pretty much the same color combo that I've been using throughout. Let's do some lime, and we'll do purple because these will all stand out. You want to make sure your colors sort of contrast with whatever your base color is so you can see it nicely. So I have my base color and my 4 speckle colors. So let's start here with our base. And we're just going to take, so again, I have my 2 3-ply strands, so 6-ply in total. And we're just going to wrap across the surface of our tool. Does not have to be thick at all, just sort of enough to cover your tool. And I think I did sort of like 2 thin layers on top of each other. And then you can either cut and tuck your yarn to remove it from the skein and just leave you with this flat base here, or you can actually utilize your
notches to just hold your yarn off to the side, because we're going to be going back and forth between making the same base color and wrapping in little speckles. So I tend to just place it in a notch and leave it there. So I'm not cutting it. It's just sort of setting it off to the side for later. So now that I have this base here, I'm going to choose, you could either do all your speckle colors at the same time. You could do one color at a time. You can, you know, alternate. Let's actually move this off to the side so you guys can see a little better. Or you can alternate, you know, wrap in however many colors you want, but you're basically just going to, you see how I'm wrapping, like lay it over the top and wrap in a few cute little speckles like that. And then you can cut and tuck, or you can kind of just leave it and we'll wrap over it once we add our next layer. So hopefully you guys are keeping up with this one. So we have our flat base layer, which I've just set the yarn off to the side for later. I've wrapped one color of speckles in, and let's actually go in with another color. I'm going to use my mandarin orange. Let's wrap in a few more speckles here. Cool. So now that we have our speckle layer, it's time to sandwich it with another base layer. So I'm doing this gently. I have my little ends that I didn't tuck here, so I'm just kind of holding those in place with my thumb. And let's go ahead and wrap over the whole thing. Cool. So now we have our second base layer, which is sandwiching our speckles. And we're just going to keep going back and forth between these little speckle layers and our base sandwich layers. I like to think of the base as bread and the speckles as your like food filling, whatever your sandwich filling. I don't know why I said food filling, but your sandwich filling, and just going back and forth and making this really big quadruple decker sandwich, or even more than 4 layers. So you can keep going until your pom-pom feels nice and fat. Oop, I don't know why I cut that. Okay, so let's add another layer of speckles. Doing the orange with the purple. And I'm going to do one more base layer and then one more speckle layer, and then we'll tie it up. But as I said, you could keep going no matter, like until you feel like your pom-pom yarn is, your little bundle is nice and fat. Okay, so that was my last base layer, and I recommend whatever layer you've started on, you want to end on the other one. So let's go to our last layer. Oh, thank you, Sherry. I'm so glad that you could join. So if anyone, I didn't mention this at the beginning, if anyone was unsure, this recording will be sent to you guys after as well. So you'll be able to reference it. Okay, so little yarn bundle is done. Let's tie it up. Wrap around twice. Cross to make a surgeon's knot, so tuck under twice, pull to the surface of your yarn, remove your yarn bundle from your tool, pull tight, and secure with a single knot. So when you're done with your speckled pom-pom pancake bundle, you're going to end up with something that looks like this. And this is such a fun one to trim open. You're going to end up with a pom-pom that looks more or less like this, depending on what colors you use. This is such a fun pom-pom pattern. So we are 3 patterns down, you guys. We have ahead of us the floral and the leopard, which are so fun. These, as I said at the beginning, they're quite similar. The difference sort of being the fact that we add little, like the flowers and the leopard print are pretty similar, but the floral, you add like a little green to make a little leaf or whatever color you want to use. And the leopard, you just have, you know, your interior leopard spot color and exterior color. So if you have, we're going to start with the leopard because I think it's one less step. So we'll learn this one. So if you have colors that you'd like to use that are sort of like leopardy, so I have here on the inside, I believe from our Omega Curl colors, I believe that's camel and black. And then this is water blue, but you can use any color combo. So if you don't have black, if you don't have like a brown, don't worry about it. Try it out with whatever colors you do have on hand. And the same goes for the floral. If you have like pink for the flowers and yellow for the inside, or whatever color you want for the flowers and yellow for the inside and green for the leaves, that's great. If you don't have all those colors on hand, don't worry, just improvise with whatever you do have on hand. The other sort of thing I'll say about these patterns and the instructions I'm about to provide, I am going to give you guys specific revolution counts for Omega Krill because I want you guys to be able to get as close to the proportion that you see here as possible. So if you're not using Omega Krill, don't worry, just take a look at how these little patterns are appearing on the tool, and you'll hopefully be able to visualize more or less how many times to wrap your each color around. What I will say is for the yellow of the flower and the inside of the leopard spots, less tends to be more. So, you know, you'll only for the yellow want to be wrapping each yellow spot around like maybe 3 times or 4 times. And same sort of goes for these interior little spots here on the leopard. So I'm going to transition over to that tutorial. Do you guys have any questions? Is there anything you'd like me to address before we move on to leopard and floral palms? How are you guys feeling? As I said, I know this is a very jam-packed, information-packed class. So just let me know if there's anything that I could answer for you guys right now. And while I invited you guys to do that, I'm going to pick out some colors for these. So is Evil Eye in the same category as floral and leopard? Great question, Joy. Evil Eye is, so it depends. There's a couple different ways you can do it. I actually think the Evil Eye is more of a stripe if you're going to do like a round one, and then you'll have the center here, or like the outside stripe here, just be like a little black, and then the iris color, and then white, and then you could do the back whatever color you want. So that's like a very general overview, but that's pretty much how you get the Evil Eye. But there are other ways to do Evil Eyes as well. So I'm just picking out my colors here for leopard. Let's pick a fun background color. I mean, I just always tend to do pink. Let's do mint, that's pretty. Are we doing both or just pick one? Great question, Nicole, because I know I said at the beginning we were just going to do one or the other. Let's start with leopard and see how it goes. But if you know what? I'm trying to think. So we're at 3:09 right now, and I want to give you guys a quick trimming tutorial. I think pick one just to be sure. I'm going to show you guys the leopard, and then I'll give you guys tips around the flower. You want to do flower. Okay, you know what? We're just going to do both. So I have nowhere to go today. So we're going to do both the leopard and the floral. So let's do the leopard first and do the floral then. And then, whatchamacallit, if you have to jump off, if you can't stay on for both, or if you are going to miss the trimming portion, then just refer back to the website or the webinar, which I'll be sending this recording after. Okay, good. I'm glad you guys want to do both. I want to be sensitive of everyone's time. So let's start with leopard. So you're going to need 3 colors. So this is going to be the inside of the leopard spots. This one is going to be the outside of the leopard spots, and this is going to be the background. And let me just send you guys the leopard tutorial so you could reference it as we go. And to be honest, I am going to reference it as we go, so I give you guys accurate revolution counts for this one. Okay, so move my screen over. Okay, so I just sent you guys the link so you can see an overview of what we're about to do to get our leopard. So let's start with our base color, and you can take both ends of your base color yarn, and we're going to wrap them at the same time. Okay, so it's about 50 revolutions. If you're using both strands, you can divide that by 2 to make 25. And again, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you can just ignore that. And we're just wrapping a base layer like we did for our speckle. So this is a good transition, speckle into the leopard. Okay, so I have my base layer here, and now we're going to, you can either set your base color aside, or just for the sake of keeping things visually neat for you guys, I'm going to cut and tuck my base layers. Okay, so we're starting with our base layer, and now we are going to add our first set of spots. So you're going to want to take the color that you're using for the exterior of your spots. So in this finished palm, it's the black. I'm using our dark brown. And let's take one of the strands. So for the spots, you're going to just be using 1 3-ply strand if you're using Omega Krill. If you are using a different type of yarn, just use your single strand of whatever yarn you're using. Just untangling a little knot here. Come on, knot. Okay, so what we're going to be doing, if you're looking at the leopard instructions I sent you guys, we are going to be wrapping 2 little sections of our background color, and you're going to want to wrap, each section should be 6 to 8 revolutions if you're using Omega Krill, and probably a little less than that if you're using a thicker yarn. So for these sections, you could either just move, like wrap, complete one section, and then, I'm sorry, this is a little dark, so a little hard to see, but when you're done with wrapping one section, you could either cut and tuck, or if you want to be lazy like I'm about to be, just take your yarn, move it over a little bit, and then wrap your second spot base 6 to 8 times. And then when you have both of those layers on, then you can do your little cut and tuck. So if you have this little cross in the back like this, don't worry about it. It all comes out in the wash, as they say. Okay, so this is where we're at here. Let me just check on the chat with you guys. The revolution count is on the overview as well, right? Yes, Elma. And how many rotations for the base layer again? It was about 50. Here is that link, you guys. That should have all the answers to your specific revolution count questions. You are very, very welcome. Okay, so moving on to the center of our leopard spots. So I have my camel. Again, I'm just going to access one 3-ply strand like so. And we are going to wrap about 4 to 5 revolutions for the center of our leopard spots. So I like to place it right in the center of our brown, or whatever color you're using as the background of your spots. Just place it right in the center and wrap it about 4 to 6 times. 4. And then again, you can kind of, if you want to be lazy like me, just move your thread, your yarn over to the next section and wrap 4 to 6 times. And you can be, if you want, like pretty meticulous about this, so that basically what we're doing is like, we're going to be next adding another layer of the outside spot color on top of the interior. So you are kind of thinking about like encapsulating this interior color with the exterior color. So that's why I'm kind of leaving it right in the center like so. So now that that's done, I'm going to cut and tuck. So cut and tuck. Okay, so now we are going to, as I said, do another layer of the background color on top. So we're going to do another 6 to 8 revolutions, and you want to like more or less cover up. Let's call it like the cream filling, right? And if it's not perfect, don't worry about it. If you have like peaks of the interior color coming through, not a big deal at all. So I just cut and tuck. And this is the first section, the first 2 layers of our leopard pom-pom pancake sandwich. So essentially what we're going to do at this point, and I'm giving you guys kind of a minute to make sure you're done wrapping if you want to follow along the next couple steps. We're just going to keep going back and forth between the base layer and the spot layers. So next I'm going to do another layer of base color, and then once that feels like it's filled up as much as possible, going to do another layer of spots, and we're going to do this 1 to 4 more times. So depending on how big or dense you want your leopard pom to be, I think I'm going to do it 2 more times, and we'll end on a base layer. Lindsay says, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, Lindsay, I can't wait to see yours and Penny's pom-poms. Guys, if anyone has to jump off at any time, because I know we're getting close to 3:30, definitely post pictures and tag the Neon Tea Party, or you can DM them to me on the Neon Tea Party on Instagram, so I could see what you've created today and hopefully share it. So thank you, Lindsay and Penny, for joining, and anyone else who has to jump off at any point. Okay, so back to our leopard. So I'm going to take my base color and let's just keep wrapping. So we're going to hide those spots. All right, so let's cut and tuck. Yay, Amber. I can't wait to see what you make this week. Jumping in late because we did a caravan parade. Aw. Yes, the video will be available. I'll be sending you guys the replay after class. Okay, so let's do another layer of spots. So we have we're basically just going back and forth. So in this way, it's kind of similar to the speckle in that we're just going back and forth between our base color, our base layer, and our pattern. And you'll see with the floral, which we'll do next, is that they're super similar. I do have some more tips for the floral on a little bit different positioning of the spots. And then of course, adding in those petals. I mean, not the petals, the leaves. But the concept is pretty much the same. All right. So I got my cream filling. And now let's do another layer of the outside of the spots. This pom-pom I'm making reminds me of, so the first of my best friends from home had a baby in March. So exciting, baby Aro. He is the most cutie patootie ever. And for my friend's baby shower, I made her, it was like, so my 2 spots are done here, in case anyone's curious. And now I'm just adding another base layer. And I'm going to add 1 more round of spots and then a base layer again. And then we'll move on to the floral. So anyway, so I was saying about her baby shower was jungle themed, and I couldn't help but make her a leopard pom-pom garland. And mint, this is the mint, was one of the colors from her garland. It was the mint, jade, and dark jade. So that was these colors. And they looked so pretty together, and it just came out so cute. I'm hoping to actually do a very belated blog post on that garland, because I shot all the steps, and then it was like holiday time because she was home. She lives not in our hometown anymore. So she was home for the holidays, and that's when her shower was. So, and then it was the holidays, and I was like, we are not getting this leopard garland up during the holidays. Nope, no way. So I'll see if I can sneak that in up on the blog for you guys soon. Okay, so last layer of leopard spots. I'm getting kind of lazy and messy, but it's all good. And then we'll do 1 more layer of the base. How are you guys feeling about leopard? You guys sort of like getting the hang of it, sort of the concept behind it? Is anyone confused? Does anyone have any questions? Because we're almost done with this one here. So I want to make sure I get your questions. Nadia says, I love it. So, right? It's like, I think that the coolest, most mind-blowing part of pom-poms is that they like look so crazy difficult. And obviously this takes some, you know, you need to know what you're doing, and it takes a little bit of like patience. But conceptually, it's actually not that hard, and it comes out so cool. Okay, so that is going to be leopard. I can't wait to cut open this one. So cut and tuck, and let's tie it up. So if you are not at this point, just if you want to keep up with the lesson, because we're going to move on to floral in a second, just think about finishing up your leopard pom and tying that up. So let's take our embroidery floss. We're going to tie it around the center. And I think for both the leopard and the floral, the denser your pom-pom is, so the more yarn that you're using for your pom-pom, the better it comes out, because there ends up being, when your pom-poms are denser, there ends up being sort of more definition to the pattern. which is something that's really nice to see with the leopard and the floral. Here's another really good floral one to get you guys excited. I'm so glad you're loving the pom-poms, Heidi. Okay. Make sure that's center. Let's pull this off. Oh yeah, this is a nice dense one. And I'm just gonna tie this one a second time because it's so thick. You can always bring your string around to the back side to tie it a second time and make sure that it's nice and secure. Patrice says, love the leopard. Me too, friend. So fun. And says, I've never worked with Omega Krill, but we'll buy some. Yeah, so it's just like the pom-poms. I mean, I'm definitely biased because I love it so much, but I find that it really helps with these intricate patterns to use the Omega Krill because it's so fine. So you get a little bit more control over that definition there. Okay, leopard pom-pom pancake is done. If you guys are following along in real time, you should have 4 pom-pom pancakes at this point. So we're gonna move on to floral. So if you guys are still finishing up your leopard, just continue, finish up, and I'm going to jump in to floral. Here is the link to floral. So this link that I'm sending, guys, refer to this link throughout the lesson. This is going to have the step-by-step for you. There's no video for this one, but the step-by-step photos are super helpful for this pattern as well. So we are going to need, as far as colors, this is a fun part. So we're going to want a base color. So choose a base color. Maybe I'll use that baby yellow again. You can choose any color you like. Here, let me give you guys some inspo. So this white is sort of like that classic floral look. This has orange as the background, blue as the background. So you can really choose any background color you like. And then, so I'm using baby yellow. And then for the flowers, you're going to choose, I would recommend about 3 colors for your flowers. This one you can see here has the light salmon, Mexican pink, and strong pink. And they all have the same yellow for the center. So that's a base color, 3 flower colors, an interior of your flower, whether it's yellow or otherwise. This one here is neon yellow. And then if you want to add leaves, you're going to want a green color or whatever color you want for your leaves. So that's 1 base color, 3 flowers, interior of your flower, and leaves. So that's 6 colors. So stick with my unsurprising color palette. Where did my Ganyaville go? Here's my green. Could do canary for the inside because I don't think I have any neon yellow right here. And let's choose, I guess we'll stay in the typical Neon Tea Party palette as usual. Okay, so this is my collection here. Hopefully you guys have your colors at the ready. So for this one, we're actually going to start with the flowers before we do our base layer. So you can start with 2 flower colors and your the interior of your flower and your leaves. So you can have those 4 colors at the ready. And I'm going to start wrapping. So let's do our first flower first. So my instructions. I'm literally going to read them out loud to you guys. Start by wrapping 4 to 6 wraps of yellow in 2 spots on your loom tool. Then wrap petal color 7 to 10 times to the right and the left of the yellow. So let's do that in real time. So I have, for our flowers, just like we did with our leopard spots, I'm just using 1 3-ply strand of each color. So we're going to wrap 4 to 6 wraps of yellow in 2 spots on our tool. So let's start with our 1. Okay, so I did 5, and then we're going to slide over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I actually recommend for the flowers not doing that lazy crossover if you can help it. But for the sake of time, I'm going to do it. But if you guys want to tap into your patience a little bit more than I am here, I would keep your colors as separate as possible, just because with the leopard, it could be like a little more messy and free form, but with the flowers, it's kind of nice to ensure that color separation. So I guess do as I teach, not as I do. Okay, so now we're going to take our first petal color of our flowers. So I'm doing this Bougainvillea on the left one here, and then I'm going to do the orange here on the right. So we're going to wrap 7 to 10 times to the right and left of the yellow. So that means on each side, we're going to wrap 7 to 10 times. Okay, so that was 7. Here you can cross over for sure, because we're going to end up covering all that up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm actually going to jump to step 2, where it says wrap over the whole thing 10 times with the petal color. So just to recap, we have about 5 wraps in the middle, and then I have 7 wraps of the petals on each side. And now I'm going to wrap over the whole thing 10 times. And then when you're done, you can cut and tuck. And it looks like Christina's jumping off. Christina, thank you so much for joining. I hope you had fun learning pattern pom-poms. Okay, so here is our first flower. It doesn't have the petals yet, but it is, in fact, a flower. Okay, so we're going to make our next flower. So I'm going to take my next color and my orange here. And I'm going to wrap 7 times on each side of my yellow, and then 10 times on top. Okay, and then we're gonna cut and tuck. Okay, so if you're following along, then we should have our first 2 cutie little flowers on our tool here. And we're going to go ahead now, once you have your 2 flowers, and let's add some leaves. So for the leaves, you can wrap 3 to 4 revolutions adjacent to your flowers. And it's totally up to you, like when you're making your flowers, whether you want to put leaves on both sides or leaves on just one side. Sometimes if I feel like if I put 2 groups of leaves next to each other on the different flowers and that they're going to just turn into one blob, I'll sort of skip, like I'm going to skip the leaf here because I'm afraid if I put it there, it's going to run into this, and then it's going to look more of just like a green blob. So you can totally just play that decision by ear based on how your design is coming out. And let's just give that a little tuck. And if you see little things like this happening, don't even worry about it. I'm just cutting them to keep this lesson visually clean for you guys. Okay, so Cheryl says she has to jump off. Oh, thank you, Cheryl. I can't wait to see what you make. I can't wait to see what all of you guys make. This is one of the classes I'm most excited to see your pictures because there's just so many different pom-poms that you're making today. All right, so once you have your 2 first flowers done, it's time to add your base. Keep thinking of the song, all about that base, about that base. So now we are going to get all about that base, and you can take either 1 strand or 2 strands, doesn't matter. I tend to take 2 because it's a little bit faster. And we are going to wrap to the right, that's the left, but the left, the right, and in between our flowers. And as far as number of times, you basically just want to start by wrapping enough times so that you feel like the little section comes up to like equal height as your flower, and then we'll cover the whole thing with like an even layer of your base color. So did it on the left. Make sure that your yarn isn't going, if you're on the wide side like I am here, make sure that your yarn isn't going off the edge and getting caught down there. Just keep it above that little ledge there. And again, because you're going to want to be able to put your embroidery floss through that space. But okay, so we got left. Let's wedge in between our flowers. This is important to get some nice definition between the 2 flowers. Okay, and then let's go to the right of this flower here. And you may want to do like I'm doing and sort of like squeezing the fibers down. Okay, so now that we have, Cheryl, Joy, thank you so much. I'm so glad you jumped on for today's class. I really can't wait to see what you create. And thank you about vacation. Very excited. Okay, so now once you have 1, 2, 3, you have your base to the sides of your flowers. Let's just go ahead and continue on and cover up your flowers to create a fresh base layer for you to make some more flowers on top of. Okay, cut and tuck. All right, how you guys doing? We still have 56 people on making pom-poms. You guys excited about your flowers? Are you sweating? Like, how are you all doing? We're so close. We just have 1 more flower layer, and then that's pretty much it for this class. You're having an internet issue, says Irma. I'm only missing the flower pom-pom. Cindy's literally sweating. I know. I always feel bad when like I try, like I always want to give you guys as much value as possible. And that means that I'm like going kind of fast to pack it all in. And then I'm like, don't forget to breathe, you guys. Don't sweat. It's all good. Okay. Anne says, I love pom-pom school. Yay, Anne. I know this one is going to be really huge and dense, but like I said, for these, when they're dense, it comes out really nice. And Irma, yeah, just if you want to refer back to this link, Irma, I'll pop it in again. That will recap what you missed with flowers. Okay, so back to flowers. We're almost done. So on the second layer, which if you're looking at that link I just sent you guys, on that second layer, I like to do 3 flowers instead of the 2. And the reason for that is kind of, if you go back to the color block pattern where we sort of like wedged the colors in between each other, I tend to do the 2 flowers on the first layer that are like here and here. And then on the second layer, I've kind of like, I like to like shift those flowers over and do like 1 here, 1 here, and 1 smack in the middle to sort of, again, like stagger the placement of those flowers. This is just my recommendation, preference, but definitely not at all like a make or break for this. So now we're going to need 3 flower colors. So pulling up all my colors, and I actually like to remember as well where I put the first layer of color. So I did a pink one here and an orange one here. So let's move the orange to the other side, the pink to this side, and then we can introduce the new color in the middle. And again, that's just sort of pattern planning and staggering where your flowers are so they end up evenly dispersed-ish. So have my colors picked out. So we are going to need, again, our flower color, the interior color, and our petal color. So let's start. This one also, this round is going to be a little different. We're going to start with a base layer of our color. And the pictures, if you're following the step-by-step tutorial, I start in the middle. I'm just going to start on the left this time. And we're actually going to, on this round, start with a base layer of our flowers. So we're going to wrap 10 to 14 times here. And you're going to want to sort of overshoot how far to the left and to the right you're doing, because your surface layer is going to fill up pretty quickly. So I'm trying intentionally to stay as far to the left as I can. Okay. So maybe for the sake of visuals for you guys, I'm just going to put the base of all 3 of my flowers. So this next one is going to be in the middle. Okay. And now let's do our 3rd flower. I have so much yarn on my lap, you guys, but I feel like you're all probably in the same situation. Just yarn explosions everywhere, which is the sign of a good day, I think. Okay, so I am not even counting. I'm just kind of eyeballing it, and that looks good. Cool, so I have my 3 flower colors, and let's add some yellows to flowers. So again, that's 4 to 6 revolutions if you're using Omega Krill. And this one I'm going to do the little crossover cheat, which you can do if you're not very particular about how your palm comes out. But if you are, I definitely recommend cutting and tucking for these. Again, I'm just being a little lazy right now. 2, 3, 4. Because you could see on the back, that's not looking like some flowers, but I'll go in and sort of clean it up. So Nicole says, I'm just having trouble keeping my flower strands tight and down. That is such a good point, Nicole. You know, usually with pom-poms, I'm like, don't worry about wrapping super tight. And while you definitely don't have to like use all of your might and strength to wrap your flower poms, I think keeping it just like going slow and intentional and pulling your wraps tighter than you maybe would for a less like intricate pom-pom is going to be your best bet. And I guess when all else fails too, making a flower pom on the narrow side, at least you have this sort of like ledge here as like kind of like a wall. When you're using the wider side here, it's a little more challenging because you're kind of not wanting your yarn to like fall over here. So that's another sort of tip when you still have kind of like your training wheels on for a pattern. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add, I'm just going to cover these up again with about 10 wraps of each color to conceal the yellow, AKA what I decided today to call cream filling. I think I'm going to be using that one from now on. So let's conceal our yellow cream filling, and then we'll add some leaves. Okay, so you could see here I'm having the same problem as you, Nicole, where it sort of kind of starts to fall over a little bit, but you know what? It's all good. Not even worrying about it. Okay, so we're gonna cut and tuck, and I'll just pinch that little flower kind of close to one another. Let's do, cover up the mandarin. And then let's do the orange. All right, so close to being done with this floral palm. We're just gonna go in and add 3 to 4 wraps of leaves. Again, especially with this layer, because as you see, it's like all getting pretty close together. You're going to want to just sort of pick and choose where you're putting your leaves so that they don't end up being just like blobs of green. So I'm gonna do some on this side. I'm just gonna do one to the left of each of these flowers. One, two, three. Okay. And I'll try and get some of the base layer in between those on the next round. So, all right. So now we're going to be like handling this very delicately to make sure our little flowers stay together. And let's go in with our base color one last time. And we're going to add some wraps in between the flowers. So if you feel like your flowers are sort of running into one another, like mine are here, you can just use that base color, just like wedge it in there, and let's get some additional separation. And then we'll wrap over the entire thing until you can't see your flowers anymore. And that will be it. Okay, so I added that separation between my flowers, and let's go ahead and wrap over all of it. And if you have an explosion, like I'm having this explosion here, so let's kind of, yeah, that's gonna help. You could just always squeeze your yarn into the center. And let's cover this whole baby up. And I'm actually going to, once I tie this up, I'm going to show you guys, for anyone who needs, how to trim open your palms and trim them with the trim guide, which will close out our lesson for the day. And you can go ahead after that and trim open all your pom-poms to see what patterns you ended up making. Okay. Amy says, I ran out of base layer, so we'll see how this goes. You know what? I bet that if you add whatever other color you want to add, it's going to look gorgeous. That's the thing with palms, is that no matter what, they're always going to end up beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to use some green here. So I have one flower exploding out this side. I think if things were going a little bit more smoothly, maybe I'd be covering that up, but you know what? I honestly think it's going to end up totally fine. So let's go ahead and tie this up and trim it open. probably just as excited as you guys. I haven't made a floral pom in a while. Okay, let's wrap around. Okay, so I'm going to tie it. Got my surgeon's knot. Move the yarn, pull it tight. Oh, this is a dense one. I'm definitely going to go around and tie this one a second time. Okay. All right. Yay! It is pom-pom trimming time, my friends. So if you're still working on your pom, no worries. If you know how to trim your pom-poms already, then obviously feel free to ignore this lesson. But this lesson is for anyone who either needs a refresher on trimming open your poms, or if this is your first time. And I'm trying to clean up my yarn here, but you know what? We're gonna just do this after. Okay, so to trim your poms, you are going to need your tray or bowl. So I have my little tray here, your pom-pom pancakes, your trim guide. I'm using the 2-inch trim guide, and your sharp scissor. So the first thing that we're going to do, and this is the most exciting part, I am just want to let you guys know how excited I am for this moment for all of you, trimming open your pom-poms. It is a very special type of joy associated with this part. So you guys will get to see what mine looks like. So we're going to be trimming open all of the loops on the perimeter of our pom-pom, and then all of the interior loops as well. So basically anything that's a loop, we're going to trim it. And I recommend trimming in small sections and sort of pulling up on your loops as you trim. And let's reveal these flowers here. Oh, I mean, I cannot wait to see what yours all look like. Look, so you can see a little flower there with the yellow and the pink and the leaves. Wow. Such a special pattern. Has anyone opened their flowers yet? I want to know how you're all doing with your with your flowers. Okay, cutting too much at once, but you can see, like, when you trim open your loops, you'll find all these little loops on the inside. So just go ahead and trim anything that's a loop. And also I recommend, as best as you can, like keeping your pom-pom sort of flat instead of fluffing it out just yet. And of course, watch your fingers. Don't want anyone accidentally cutting your finger instead of your pom-pom. Okay, so it looks like, oh, found a little ridge. I like to go around a couple times to make sure I didn't miss anything. Cindy said your embroidery thread exploded. Oh, I'm sorry, Cindy, that happens. If your pom-pom bundle is still kind of in good shape, just wrap around again with a fresh embroidery floss and just be very careful. Oh, thank you, Dawn. I'm so glad that you could make it today. Okay, so once you've trimmed open all of your loops on your pom-pom, you're going to take your trim guide, place it in the center, press down slightly, and we're going to trim around our trim guide. And the shape that we're kind of going for is like an Oreo cookie, where it's like obviously flat here and round, but smooth on the outsides. And you can see, oh my gosh, as you trim down, you really get that definition on your flowers. So this is kind of what I was saying about with the flowers and the palm and the leopard, that the denser your palm is, the more easily you can see that definition. You can take your trim guide, bring it to the back side of your pom-pom, trim it around on that side, a little more cleaning up. So here's where you really need those sharp scissors. Okay, so pom-pom is almost done. You can see it's that like Oreo cookie shape. And I'm just going to fluff closed those flat sides. And the pom-pom is going to be a little bit oblong. You can see it's like round on the top, round on the bottom, but those flat sides that you closed up are probably a little bit pointy. So you can take your trim guide, once again, place it in the center so those oblong ends are sticking out. Let me see if I can make it a little easier for you to see. Okay, and we're going to trim around another time. You can gently press down on your pom-pom when you go to trim around. All right, so you can gently roll your pom-pom around in your hand. If you have any little strands that are sort of like sticking out, I have a bunch. Just go ahead and give it a final little cleanup. Just cut very small sections at a time when you're cleaning it up. Less is more. You can always trim more, but you can't put them back. So check that, look at that flower. Oh, so hopefully you guys, but you see this side ended up kind of funny. So it's always a little bit of a crapshoot, but hopefully you'll get some good flowers in there. So cute, adding to the collection. And now you guys can go ahead and trim open all of your other pom-pom pancakes. Oh my gosh, send me pictures. I cannot wait to see. So before I change over the view, because we're at the end of our class now, we went over by 30, which we really, now I know when we do pom-pom patterns, we got to keep it to 2 hours. So I want to make sure you guys get all this info. So we're going to wrap it up in just a second. If you have any other questions that you'd like to, or anything you want me to show you real fast, just pop that into the chat right now before I change over the view to send you guys off for the day. So where can we review all these patterns? Yep, so again, I will send you the landing page. That is our pom-pom and tassel landing page that has all of the instructions for every pattern that we learned here today. Don't feel overwhelmed, just go one at a time. I know this was like a jam-packed lesson. You can also find the general trimming and tying steps in the how to make pom-poms, lesson. And let's see. What other questions do you guys have? Ruthie, oh, hi Ruthie, you're so welcome. And I'm so glad you had fun. Stacy, you did not put enough yarn. That's okay. Just keep practicing. You'll get the hang of it. And the other, the resources will be a little more specific with you about the yarn. Lisa says it's like magic. It really is. The flowers and the leopard are really magic. You'll be obsessively trimming all night. Yep. Thank you, Elma. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, let me switch over the view so I can say bye to you guys properly.
Hello. Okay, I'm so glad you guys had fun. Again, to anyone who felt like this was like so much information and it was a little bit information overload, don't worry, just use those resources. Go one pattern at a time. You can always DM me with any questions about like any pom-pom questions, and you can find all the supplies that we used today over in the Neon Tea Party shop. I feel like I said this 500 times, but definitely send me pictures so I can see what you created. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I can't wait to keep going with you guys this summer. I can't wait to share our summer schedule with you. And just stay crafty, you guys. Hopefully I'll see a bunch of you tomorrow for Tie-Dye 101. Okay, I think that's all. Sending you guys big hugs and kisses. If you're in the New York City area today, it's a gorgeous day. Enjoy, get some sun. All right, bye you guys.